Thursday, July 30th, 2020. I'm Greg Nibbler, and this is Digital Trends Live. Yes, indeed. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. Thank you so much for joining us. We broadcast live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. So hit that subscribe button, and let's get started with some news here at the top of the show. The House Judiciary Committee's investigation into big tech reached a peak on July 29th with Mark Zuckerberg, Sundar Pichai, we've got Tim Cook, we've got Jeff Bezos, all gathering there in front of this antitrust subcommittee via WebEx, of all things, to discuss whether or not their companies violate antitrust laws. So some questions from some representatives seemed to tackle the issues at hand, like whether or not Google is too involved in online advertising, being able to control both the buying and selling side of things. But a lot of the questions seem to be aimed at political vendettas or an outright lack of understanding of how technology even works, with one rep confusing Facebook with Twitter. So the hearing concluded with Representative David Cicilline stating, quote, "This hearing has made one fact clear to me. These companies as they exist today have monopoly power. Some need to be broken up. All need to be properly regulated," unquote. So the full antitrust report is due this fall, but we've got a full recap of the hearing and all the details that are important at digitaltrends.com. I encourage everyone to go take a look at those. A lot of information about each one of the companies. We got some answers. We didn't get all the answers we wanted, but nonetheless, it continues on, and that's what happened yesterday. Read more at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on here with trending news, something that has just happened. NASA has successfully launched the Perseverance rover on its way to Mars, leaving Earth's orbit today and thinking about a 7-month journey into deep space before it reaches Mars on an anticipated date of February 18th, 2021. And that's when it's going to attempt to land next to the Jezero crater on the planet's surface. Now, the main purpose of the scientific mission is to use this rover to search for evidence that would indicate life once existed on the planet by examining the rocks of an ancient lake bed. In addition to the ability to vaporize rocks via a laser from 20 feet away, the Perseverance will also help pave the way for future Mars missions by gathering rocks and soil for the goal of someday returning those samples back to Earth for more detailed scientific study. Now, the Perseverance rover will not be alone, as NASA has also sent a helicopter called Ingenuity. So if successful, this would be the first time a helicopter has ever been flown on another planet. It could open up huge amounts of territory that is yet to be explored, like mountains or even some caves. A lot of things they could do with that, and it's definitely an exciting time for space exploration. We have all the details at digitaltrends.com. TikTok is ramping up the battle to maintain its user base. It's facing a lot of different things going on right now, but it's announcing a plan to pay creators over $2 billion over the next few years as it faces these external challenges from myriad sources. So TikTok's creator fund was originally announced as $200 million, but with Facebook pretty much openly trying to poach TikTok stars, they've ramped that dollar amount up by a lot. So Facebook's competitor platform Reels, which will live within Instagram, is expected to be launching in August and is already being tested globally in India, Brazil, Germany, and some other countries. TikTok's CEO Kevin Mayer actually announced that they would be revealing their algorithm and forming a transparency and accountability center, while at the same time taking shots at Facebook and accusing them of attacks that are disguised as patriotism. Along those lines, TikTok has faced restrictions from a number of organizations and countries. The United States has frequently threatened to have it banned entirely. It's unknown if that could actually be enforced, but a national security review has been launched by Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin with a recommendation on action to be made later this week. So expect a lot more news from TikTok coming soon. Check it out at digitaltrends.com. And the e-pickup market is expected to be very competitive in future years with the Ford e-F-150. You've got Rivian, you even have Tesla with the Cybertruck. But GMC has finally unveiled when they're going to unveil the GMC Hummer EV. So it's going to be coming out this fall. They put out a new video showcasing a few things, including LeBron James narrating it. So here's what we know about it. It's supposed to be a little bit different from the Hummer you may be familiar with. So you remember the old ones, but this one's going to be more of a four-door pickup with more of a recreational vehicle kind of feel to it than a work vehicle. So the power is going to be generated by GM's Ultium battery and BEV3 modular platform, meaning this could be the basis for more vehicles going forward. It's reportedly going to have 1,000 horsepower. It'll be able to go from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. But is there a market for an e-Hummer? That remains to be seen. But with all of this and all the other auto manufacturers putting out electric pickups, it's definitely clear the electric vehicle market is going to be huge going forward. So a lot to look forward to there. You can read the details about it at digitaltrends.com. One of the things we like to do here at Digital Trends is keep you up to date on what's trending in technology, and that includes what is happening in the world of gaming. And that is why we have our own Lisa Marie Segarra here to join us and tell us what some of the trending stories are. Lisa Marie, as always, hello. What do we want to talk about today?
Sorry about that. We have to talk about the big Nintendo Giga Leak. So essentially, of course, on 4chan, there was a big data trove of different files that were all leaked. And these it's a really interesting leak because these are some older info. So you have a lot of like 90s nostalgia coming up with it. You don't get any new info on upcoming games, but there's a lot of stuff about past Pokemon. You have these like different Mario things like that. Luigi was supposed to be in Super Mario 64. The sequel to Ocarina of Time was supposed to be on the 64DD, which, was failed. And, there are some images of dungeons there. You've got like Star Fox 2 character prototypes. And, these are really interesting because there are a lot of like urban legends and rumors that are now confirmed and some totally unexpected stuff. So it's kind of funny to see. And, it's kind of nice because it's not like, oh, it's a new game and things are spoiled. It's just like a look back, and it's kind of a more fun leak. I'm sure Nintendo isn't super pleased about it, but, nothing serious is leaked, thankfully.
At least, yeah, it's old stuff, like you said. That's pretty cool. That's pretty fascinating. So that's the Giga Leak that came out, and then we've got some more updates for Animal Crossing as well.
Yeah, so the latest update comes today, which is really exciting. It's the second summer update, and it's probably the last update until the fall. So basically, you're going to have fireworks every Sunday night throughout the month of August. You can actually make your own fireworks for the first time. Fireworks have been in the game since the first installment, and you would have them for like big celebrations or New Year's, but this is just kind of like a hey, summer's happening, and I know a lot of people in cities like I live in Brooklyn have been dealing with fireworks every day, so very realistic. You can also blow bubbles, and we also got a new update that mirrors a new leaf feature. So there used to be this dream suite, so you could visit other people's towns, but nothing's permanent, so you won't actually be visiting their towns. You're visiting like the model, and people used to use this to tell stories on their island. You travel to a town and you see all these characters and they're positioned a certain way, and there are some really fascinating ones. And this time around though, you can go there through like any bed, and it's very different. It's a lot more accessible, which is nice. And that also works with cloud saving, which is really big. So people have been dying to get that, and now finally we have it for Animal Crossing. They basically said that they weren't going to do it, and then they were, and so now it's finally here, which is really exciting. It's a lot more restricted than other cloud saves for other games, but it exists finally. And we probably won't see another update until Halloween, according to the teaser, but I'm pretty pleased with this update.
Nice. Well, and we've got the details too at Digital Trends, like you said, just coming out here today. So that's awesome. And one other thing that's very pertinent and very timely is something that Fortnite has going on in regards to voting.
Yeah, it has the We the People voter suppression event. So Epic Games and Opus United are getting together to host a We the People event, and it's centered around voter suppression. It's also not the first event they've held, and but it's really impactful. It's based on real life stuff, and the idea that not everyone has the same opportunity to vote, and seeing Fortnite use its platform for something like this is really interesting, and it shows how big Fortnite has gotten and the impact that it can have in the real world. You know, a lot of people don't necessarily view gaming or even something as big as Fortnite as having a real cultural impact or societal impact, but it clearly does. You know, we have broadcast journalists, Carrie Champion hosting it with Jason Hayward from the MLB. Jalen Rose, who's an analyst with the NBA, will also be involved. So they also have some really big names. You've got like Yvonne Orji from Insecure and like actors, actresses, and things like that. It comes after the July 4th event, which also talked about racial injustice. So it's not the first time that Fortnite has tackled a very serious impact in the real world, or a very serious topic, I should say. But it's really, really interesting, and it really just goes to show, you know, how pervasive gaming is in all of our lives.
And using their platform for something like this, for something that's good and that's helping people out, I think that's a really fantastic use for it. So that's a great event. Well, Lisa Marie, as always, thank you so much for joining us here to keep us up to date with everything that's going on in the world of gaming. And we've got all the details at digitaltrends.com of everything you were talking about for all of those updates and everything else. Nice to talk to you. I'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great.
Lisa Marie Segarra right here. Again, follow along at digitaltrends.com for all of that. Now, we talked about platforms using their power for good. That's what we're going to do next. So we have the co-founder and CEO of the Chive, John Resig, who's going to be here next to talk about some of the charitable donations that they've been doing and some incredible things. So that's up next. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Hit that subscribe button and join us here every day. One of the things we like to talk about is how various platforms can use their power for good. And certainly that is something that the Chive is doing now and has been for a long time. Joining us, we have the CEO and co-founder, John Resig, back here on the show. John, hello. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing good out here. Excited to talk about what you guys are doing there with the Chive, and it's such an interesting story of how this kind of started during this pandemic. Can you walk us through what these last few months have been bringing?
Yeah, it's been I think it's been an interesting time for all of us. I can tell you that I think, speaking to what you're talking about, you starting to read that it's coming into the parlance that the moratorium on evictions is not going to be reinstated. So that kind of puts about 14 million Americans at risk of being put out on the street. And some people are speculating that as many as 40% of those people could actually end up homeless. So, the Chive is really at its center a very grassroots website. And so I thought I had to do something about this. So I got out a fresh checkbook and told people to write in, and I'll write your rent check for you.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I didn't know at the time that I had opened up one of the world's biggest can of worms. I figured like 100 people would come in, and I'd write the whole sleeve of checks down. I'd say about 100 people wrote in the first 10 minutes, and that's when I realized that there was something big going on here.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. And incredibly generous too at the same time. But the fact that there's that many people, just going back to what you were saying in the beginning, like that many people that need this help, because it's it's hard right now. And so you did this, you started this, writing these checks, you go through your checks. How did you take it then from there to take it to the kind of the next level?
That's a really good question. I thought what had begun as this lofty endeavor on my part. After I wrote 50 checks or something and exhausted the checkbook, I realized there were about 900 or so people in the inbox that I would, for lack of a better term, I couldn't turn my back on them. They were, we had categorized them as imminent evictions. So I thought we had, we needed a bigger boat. So it took us a few days to get together a GoFundMe with Chive Nation and our Central Florida Chivers who set it up. And I just held my breath and launched this GoFundMe campaign and said, look, in the interest of fairness, we're going to be cutting $500 checks to everybody. Because rents vary, but if that buys you another 30 days and a roof over your head, that's fine. And we set a $20,000 goal for that. And I remember my phone started like buzzing in my pocket after 10 minutes, and people were saying that we'd hit the goal after 10 minutes. And I was on a phone call and I was like, no, my friends are just messing with me. But we had, and that goal doubled 10 minutes later, and it tripled within the hour. And I don't honestly know what it's at right now. I think it's $340,000 in a day. I don't have a watch.
That's incredible in a day that's gone up. That's what you've raised, and that's I think that's a testament to a lot of things. Just the fact that people are willing to help and give and understand, but also to the Chive community, to what you've built as well. With that organization and the people that follow you that are being like that. How does that make you feel, just as being the CEO and co-founder of this, to be able to help out in this way?
It's strange because to the passerby who doesn't actually visit the Chive, everyone has their own idea. It's just very funny photos and girls in bikinis. But if you're one of the 30 million Chivers, the actual community's bedrock is humanity. We've been doing a charity campaign every week since we started over 12 years ago. And so we've raised over 14 million, now almost $15 million for various charitable causes. And, we really support the underdog all the time. So I was not surprised that they came to the aid of these people. But to your point, I'm most proud of the fact that, there was a lot of people in need in my inbox who were asking for money. But after an hour, there were as many people asking how they could help as people who needed help. And that was a bit surprising to me. It wasn't like there were one request to help for every 8 people that needed help. The outpouring of support shows that I think people not only want to help, but they understand that this is a looming crisis. And we've got, the hourglass and the sands are falling out. I mean, here we are on the 30th, we get the bonus day at the end of July, and then we might have a big problem on our hands. And the last thing that we need is a homeless crisis on top of a social crisis, on top of a pandemic. But we could well be headed that way.
Well, and there's so many things that need to be addressed for that, but what you're doing with this, is certainly obviously helping people out, and it's providing a platform for other people to help other people too that may not know where to go. And to that extent, where should we send people who are watching now who want to help out or maybe even need help?
We've created a GoFundMe page called John Pays Your Rent. Right now, I think the best thing to do is you'll see it all over the Chive homepage. If you want to help, go to the Chive right now. You'll probably see it in the story in the lead. And there's multiple stories that'll point you into the GoFundMe page for you to donate. And believe me, if you donate $10, that's great. If you donate $500, then you're keeping a roof over someone's head, for the next 30 days. And if that 30 days gives them the chance to figure out a plan, then we've done our job.
That's fantastic. John, thank you for joining us here on Digital Trends Live to talk about this, but also for what you're doing and leading this charge. And for everybody out there, help out if you can. Like you said, $10, $500, whatever it is. That's fantastic to help people out. And John, as always, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for recognizing this cause. You guys were the first to reach out. You should be proud of yourselves. You guys are, frankly, you always are. So thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you, John. And thanks to everybody, too, who's tuning in here to Digital Trends Live. We appreciate all of you who join this show. And we've got something next. So every Friday, we've got a new episode of Robots Everywhere that premieres on our YouTube channel. So go to YouTube, hit subscribe. But we've got last week's episode to just give you a little bit of a teaser into the next one coming up. So here it is. This is Robots Everywhere right after this. Then we've got Rick Marshall. All kinds of things coming. Stick around. This is Digital Trends Live.
I don't know why, but for some reason we humans seem to be hell-bent on making robots that look like us. We can make them in any shape, size, or configuration that we want, but there's still a subset of roboticists that insist on making humanoids. Why? I don't really know. It could be for any number of reasons. Maybe it's narcissism and we're just so obsessed with ourselves that we can't resist building robots in our own image. Or maybe it could be for practical reasons. I mean, if we want robots that live and work alongside humans, it makes sense to give them bodies and appendages much like our own. Or heck, maybe it's just a hard thing to do and we love a good challenge. The reason isn't clear, but one thing is for sure though. We've been making humanoid robots for a long time, and they're starting to get really good. I'm Drew Prindle, and this is Robots Everywhere, a show where we chronicle the slow but steady takeover of our future robot overlords and show you how they're making their way into practically every facet of modern life.
In the 1930s, talking robots were built primarily to amuse and entertain.
One of the earliest humanoid robots to gain widespread notoriety was Eric, the world's first British robot, who made his debut in 1928 after the Duke of York cancelled his planned appearance at London's exhibition of the Society of Model Engineers. It was basically a gathering that would probably just be called a hobbyist meetup if it happened today. So in order to fill the void left by the Duke of York, one of the model makers in the club stepped up and offered to build a man of tin to give the opening address. And that's exactly what he did. At the event's opening, Eric the robot took to the stage, rose to his feet, bowed to the audience, and then gave a 4-minute opening address. Technically, the address was given by a human backstage who beamed his voice to the robot via radio, but still, that's pretty impressive for 1928. Fast forward a decade or so, and we got another noteworthy humanoid robot. At the 1939 World's Fair, the Westinghouse Electric Corporation unveiled Electro, a 7-foot-tall, 265-pound robot that could speak about 700 words, all on his own, by the way, thanks to a 78 RPM record player that was inside his chest. He could also blow up balloons, smoke cigarettes, and move his head and arms. He even had photoelectric eyes that could distinguish between red and green light. Like, I have no idea what that was actually good for, but again, that's pretty impressive for 1939. That said, regardless of how impressive the tech was for the time, humanoid robots were still very much in their infancy back then, and they remained there for another half-century or so. It wasn't really until the turn of the millennium, the year 2000, that humanoid robots emerged from their infancy and reached a key milestone: the ability to walk on their own. One of the first robots to achieve this was Honda's Osmo, the end result of nearly 2 decades of research and development aimed at creating a bipedal robot that could autonomously balance, self-regulate, and walk just like a human. Technically, there were a few early prototypes that walked before Osmo, but Osmo was the full package. He could walk, he could sense the terrain under his feet, he could detect obstacles, and eventually he could even do stuff like climb stairs and kick soccer balls. As Honda continued to improve him, he also gained the ability to recognize moving objects, gestures, sounds, and even faces, which taken together allowed him to interact with humans. In a lot of ways, Osmo was a turning point. Just a few years after that debut, humanoid robotics really started to take off. The mid to late 2000s saw the birth of tons of other humanoid robots with even more impressive abilities, like the iCub, for example, a robot designed to mimic the abilities of a 3.5-year-old child, and that was capable of not only grasping objects with its extremely dexterous hands, but also expressing emotions by moving parts of its face. Another one that's worth mentioning is Now from SoftBank Robotics, which is a lot like Osmo but smaller and designed specifically as a programmable platform for robotics researchers. Almost immediately, people started programming teams of Now robots to play soccer against each other in the infamous RoboCup competition. So robots quite literally went from baby steps to full-on soccer matches in just a few short years. Excitingly, that feverish pace of progress isn't showing any signs of slowing. Just look at Sophia from Hanson Robotics, arguably one of the most advanced humanoid robots produced to date. She doesn't play soccer, but thanks to a mind-boggling array of micromotors and actuators in her face, she's capable of producing over 50 unique facial expressions. That's something that robots typically can't do at all, but it's an absolutely crucial part of human communication. Now, wiggling her eyebrows isn't her only talent, though. Thanks to Google's speech recognition technology, she can also recognize and speak multiple different languages, and even hold a basic conversation. The only downside, of course, is that you've got to stare into those dead, lifeless eyes while you talk to her, and try your hardest not to fixate on that weird bald head with the transparent back section. Why didn't they give her hair? I mean, seriously, you could design a robot with like 50 facial features, but you couldn't finish the job by slapping a wig on her? Come on, man! Anywho, Sophia is definitely impressive, but hands down the best example of the insane pace of humanoid robotic progress is Atlas from Boston Dynamics. This sucker debuted back around 2013, and back then the robot could do things like balancing on one foot, walking over super uneven terrain, and recovering from hits and pushes without toppling over. But then things started to get crazy. Just a couple years later, Boston Dynamics released a video showing a new and improved version of Atlas that could do some absolutely mind-boggling things, like walking on a snow-covered hillside where it actually couldn't see what the terrain was like underneath, or predict how that terrain might change when stepped on. It could also recognize objects, bend over to pick them up, and then recover if something was dropped or hit out of its hands by some evil humans with hockey sticks. And as if that wasn't wild enough, a couple years later, Boston Dynamics raised the bar yet again and showcased Atlas running, doing parkour, and hucking backflips off of boxes. So within the span of about 5 years, humanoid robots went from walking to doing full-on gymnastics and executing moves that most humans can't do. And that's what blows my mind the most. Not the backflips and the crazy stunts, but the pace of progress that those stunts represent. It took us until the year 2000 to teach robots how to walk, but less than a decade to teach them how to do parkour. So despite the fact that humanoid robots have been a sci-fi dream for most of human history, we are now at a point where the prospect of living and working alongside robots isn't just possible, it's actually likely to happen in the near future. Based on the trajectory of innovation that we've seen, I'm willing to bet that we're just a few short years away from having advanced humanoid robots everywhere.
Nice closer by Drew there. So Robots Everywhere, new episodes premiering every Friday on our YouTube channel, so go ahead and hit subscribe to get the new one when it pops up there tomorrow. But right now, it's time for Real News, where we take a look at what is going on in the world of movies and entertainment. What can we watch? What's happening? What's the big update? We've got Rick Marshall here to guide us through that. Rick, hello, and where should we start off with here today?
Well, hello. And yeah, as usual, there's more news out of the theatrical sort of side of movie business. AMC Entertainment and Universal Pictures NBC Universal technically, have arranged a deal whereby they're going to shorten the window for exclusivity of movies in the theater to 17 days, which is essentially 3 weekends, down from, the usual 75 to 90 days, so they can get them out on, video on demand. And that's a pretty big deal because it looks like there's probably gonna be a lot of studios that will follow suit in this, brave new world that we have right now of everyone wanting on-demand movies and getting used to them. So that's a pretty big deal. AMC is probably going to share some of the profits from the initial video on demand that the studios are doing. So, it's in their best interest to sort of go with the flow on this. And I think we're going to see some big changes in the movie industry.
Yeah, do you think there's going to be any theaters that are open long enough to have a movie in there for 3 weekends to even make this possible?
Yeah, a lot of this is theoretical at the moment. It's everything is sort of depending upon when movie theaters open up, how many open up, what happens in the first couple of weeks of them opening up, So everything is very theoretical, but this is a pretty big deal for, the nature of the entire relationship of movie theaters to the studios that create movies.
Nice. Well, see where it goes. Like we do every week, we start off with something changing when it comes to theaters. So that's the latest one. We'll see what's next week. Going from there, we've got some things that are premiering this weekend that people can check out.
Yeah, there's two pretty big ones that I think a lot of people should check out. On Netflix, debuting July 31st, Friday, season 2 of The Umbrella Academy. I absolutely love the show. I got an early look at it, the full second season of it. The first season was a big hit for Netflix. I believe it was their third most watched show of the year in 2019, which is a big deal for Netflix. It kind of came out of nowhere because it was based on a comic book that not a lot of people have read. So it came out, people loved it. It was a huge hit, but everyone kind of thought it might be a fluke, how good the first season was. Where do they go from here? It's such a weird sort of eccentric show, but season 2 is fantastic. It raises the bar. It lives up to the hype of the first season. It has a lot of time travel elements, as well as all these fun, deep dives into these very, very unique superhero or reluctant superhero characters in the series. So I can't recommend it enough.
And then that's out, tomorrow, I believe, on Friday, July 31st is when Umbrella Season 2 comes out.
Yes, that comes out tomorrow, as well as on Disney Plus, Muppets Now comes out. So the latest iteration of a Muppets TV series hits Disney Plus on Friday, July 31st as well. The first episode comes out there. This is sort of a new one for the Muppets. It's a unscripted series. It's an improvisational sort of comedy where they're going to go through a lot of, parodies of shows types that we've gotten used to, cooking shows, talk shows, all these different types of shows we've gotten used to. The Muppets are going to have these celebrity guests on, and they're going to kind of see where things go. It's a very unscripted comedy series. I've gotten a look at the first couple of episodes, and they're very funny. While I wouldn't put it in the same class as the original, the Muppet Show, it is better than the 2015 show that, lasted one season there on ABC. So it's definitely worth checking out if you are a Muppets fan. I really enjoyed it, watched it with my kids, and they loved it too.
I am a huge Muppets fan, so I will definitely be checking that one out. And that one's out. That's out also this weekend, on Disney Plus. So one more thing on there. Well, always a lot of stuff to check out and pay attention to. And I know you keep everybody up to date too at digitaltrends.com with what's going on in entertainment and movies. And I know you work very hard behind the scenes to get all of this information for everybody. And Rick, as always, we appreciate it a lot.
Thank you. It's always great to talk movies and TV with you.
Rick Marshall, everybody. So check out everything there at digitaltrends.com for all the updated information on what to watch and where to watch it. And all right, what I want you to do right now, hit subscribe. Tomorrow on the show, we've got Ciara Presser here for another edition of Work Life. We're going to have all the tech news and headlines that you need. That's what we do here every single day. So hit subscribe, share the show, let other people know about it, whatever platform you're on. And we appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to check out our podcasts as well. Wherever you get podcasts, just type in Digital Trends and you will find us on there. And thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. I'm Greg Nibbler. I'll see you right back here tomorrow for another edition of Digital Trends Live.